So if you're watching this right now, you're learning about the CASE method. If you pay attention to this video, you might learn how to go out into the world and be successful.
So the CASE method is a way in which the University of Illinois MBA program presents real business problems and situations to students and helps them analyze real-life situations.
The purpose behind using the CASE method in a classroom setting is to allow you to use these concepts outside of your textbook context and see how they apply in real-world situations for companies.
The benefit of the CASE method to me was that the marketing classes and using the CASE method really helped prepare me for fall recruiting, because I ended up doing probably about a dozen CASE interviews.
The CASE method has been very beneficial to me because I'm going to be pursuing a career in consulting. And in consulting, you really need to be able to identify a company's problem. You need to analyze that problem very quickly, and you have to realize and present recommendations for the client. And this is something that we do every day in Professor Noel's class.
I prepare for a case by reading the case through about 3 times on average. One time just to get a summary of the case, and then the second and third times to really look for interesting things or kind of look for nuances in the case. Then I would compile all that information on both a qualitative and a quantitative side using the questions that Professor Noel gave us.
I would suggest not just highlighting, because often you don't know why you've highlighted something. So I would always take notes at the same time in the margins, in addition to having a notebook, because that way you know exactly why you highlighted something, and you know exactly where you might be able to pull that piece of information and put it into your case write-up eventually. And
my best advice for students when preparing to analyze a case is to first read through the case individually, jot down some notes, jot down some thoughts, and then go meet with a group of students and then analyze the case with that group of students. So when you go to the group discussions, it's best to come with a plan formulated, know what you want your problem to be, know what you sort of want your summary recommendations to be, and how you want to formulate your action plan. And then when you discuss it with the group, some of those things might change, and you might actually come up with better action plan items or a better rationale behind your actual problem.
With regards to group discussion, this is a perfect opportunity for you to take advantage of the different viewpoints and perspectives that your colleagues will definitely bring to the table.
If you didn't see it one way, maybe somebody with an engineering background sees it a different way, or someone with a marketing background sees it another way.
We have the advantage of having students from 29 different countries. That means they understand how the business works in 29 different regions.
going and seeing what people are talking about, what their ideas are, is extremely important, because first of all, you have to defend your own ideas, and that will bring out the weaknesses that you will need to address in your case analysis. The class discussion was always an exciting day, because I would want to know what Professor Noel was going to say about the case and whether or not I'd gotten it right or not. But what I realized as the semester went on was that the class discussion is about that sort of aha moment, when the things we're talking about in class are connected and drawn together with the things in the case. And so you realize how many different ways there are to go about a specific problem, and you also realize maybe some things that you should have addressed.
Your role in the class discussion is to debate other people's arguments and try and prove that your stance is correct over other people's stances. And one point that I will say, when you are providing rationale for your stance, don't be wishy-washy and try and change stances based on someone's argument. Stand your ground and make sure you support your position very strongly.
Again, in classroom you don't get that much of air time, so you want to make sure that the points that you are making are so important that it gets attention.
Class discussion was awesome, because I would go into class and realize that all 50 of my classmates had thought of the case from a different angle than me. What was really great too is having so many of our international classmates share their own lens on the case and bring some of their own cultural context into analyzing the case.
As an individual student, your role in a class discussion is to be prepared to argue and defend your approach, why this might be the correct approach for whatever company that you're discussing, and be prepared to take in the different points of different arguments that your classmates may have in return. And this is really beneficial because it really broadens your perspective.
The case write-up is a one-page summary of the issues you analyzed and your recommendation. It is absolutely a helpful exercise because it trains you to think through issues clearly, summarize them quickly, and communicate them concisely.
This case write-up is really your first opportunity to formulate a framework.
They allow you to put all your thoughts onto one piece of paper in one page, and you have to be very concise. Every sentence matters. You have to make statements, you have to make recommendations, and you have to be very clear because there's no room for fluff in your case write-ups.
Case write-ups, I feel, are the most critical component of the case method, because that is when you are taking company's problem, recommendations, solution, and you're having to actually communicate that directly to the client in a very concise piece of paper. That case portion is an executive summary that you're handing in to a client.
Each statement needs to be bold and impactful to your paper. A former president once said that he wanted to write his wife a one-page paper, and he said he didn't have enough time to do it, which means that it's harder to write something that's smaller and condensed than something large where you can just keep writing.
So the Illinois MBA program, specifically Professor Noel's marketing class, gives you two opportunities through the case method. Number one is to be able to develop your storytelling skills. So the advice that I'd give to students on that end is to really understand how to present a problem and a solution in a very concise form. Number two, the opportunity that Professor Noel's class gives students is to be able to effectively communicate and persuade the client. And in that sense, you need to spend a lot of time on each case and understand the company from the inside out before even beginning to draft an entire case write-up.
Prep for cases about a week in advance because you really need some time to read through the case, analyze the issues, and then write a concise, clear write-up.
Take it slow. Don't rush through the case. You definitely want to do a brief skim through of the case, maybe 1 or 2 times in the beginning so that you can understand the flow of what the company is experiencing. And from that, you should dig into the specifics to form your argument.
One, remember that it's an investment in your, ability to learn in this class, but also in your future. The second thing is to learn to stand by your ideas. I think that often in education we're concerned with getting things right, but we're not willing to take risks with our thought process.
First of all, keep your mind open to all the perspectives. This is important when you're discussing your case with your group mates. That gives you, if you are too focused on the solution that you have come up with, then you will not be open to the ideas, and you will miss out information. The second piece of information is that whatever solution that you have given, you have to be able to back it up by some data.
The objective of the case write-up is to sort of pinpoint your thoughts in one direction and to get your thoughts down on paper. It should not be the end game for your analysis. The end game should be when you go to class and you debate and argue and discuss your stance and points with other students. You should be continuing to analyze the case during those times and support your points more and more.
Well, you've just heard several brilliant students talk about the case method. Just want to sum it up by telling you 2 things. One is, during the entire process, you would do a lot of work on your own as individuals, but you have to use your groups. You'll never be able to do it all on your own. Use your groups. They're very important. Very important to attend group discussions, very important to bounce ideas about the cases, bounce them off your group members. The final thing is the case method is not about finding the right solution. There's no right solution. It's about coming up with your own proposed solution and defending it, supporting it with facts, data from the case, and with theory. Okay, so now that you've learned all this, you'd be able to go out in the world and be successful.